"Sir, today is my birthday. Can I just blow out a candle and make a wish? I don't have money to buy a cake, but I promise I won't be any trouble." The little girl's voice trembled as she clutched a handful of dirty coins, her eyes wide with a mix of shame and fragile hope. She stood on tiptoes at the bakery counter in the heart of Chicago's biting winter morning, unaware that an elegant millionaire at a nearby table had paused mid-sip of his coffee, his steely gaze fixed on her. What she didn't know was that this stranger, burdened by his own empire of isolation, was about to rise and shatter the silence with an act that would forever alter her fate. If this story tugs at your heart already, hit that subscribe button to join our community of dreamers and do-gooders. Let's uncover more tales like this together. Drop a comment below. Where are you tuning in from today, and what time is it there? Stick around, because what happens next isn't just heartwarming. It's a whirlwind of surprises, sacrifices, and a twist that proves kindness can rewrite destinies. You won't want to miss how one candle sparked a revolution in two lives. The fogged windows of Sweet Corner Bakery in San Francisco's Mission District framed a world of warmth against the chill of a drizzly autumn morning. Julian Thorne pushed through the door, the bell tinkling like a reluctant alarm. At 38, he was the epitome of calculated success, a tech mogul whose empire spanned algorithms and acquisitions, his latest being the ambitious Project Urban Revival. It promised to reshape rundown neighborhoods into gleaming tech hubs, swallowing small properties like this very bakery in the process. He wasn't here for nostalgia. He needed a quiet corner to dodge a nagging call from his cousin Marcus about finalizing the deal. Sliding into a booth with his black coffee, Julian scanned the room with the precision of a predator assessing terrain. Patrons few, ambiance quaint, value depreciating. His phone buzzed again. Marcus. Julian silenced it, eyes drifting to the counter where a small figure caught his attention. A girl no more than 8 or 9 stood on tiptoes, her threadbare coat dripping rainwater onto the tiled floor. She clutched a few grimy coins in one hand, her other gripping the edge of the marble slab as if it were a lifeline. Her hair, dark and tangled, framed a face pale from more than just the cold. Eyes too wise for her years, carrying the weight of unspoken burdens. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, her voice a fragile thread in the hum of the espresso machine. Could I buy just one candle? It's my brother's birthday today, and he never gets anything for himself. I promise I won't make a mess or anything. I just want to make a wish for him." The baker, a burly man with flour-dusted arms and a weary scowl, barely looked up from wiping the counter. "Kid, this ain't a charity shop. Candles are for cakes, and cakes cost money. Move along before you scare off paying customers." Her shoulders slumped, but she didn't cry. Instead, she nodded politely, pocketing her coins with a quiet dignity that twisted something deep in Julian's chest. He watched her turn toward the door, her steps hesitant, as if the rejection were just another drop in an endless storm. It was then that the ghost stirred, the memory of Emma, his little sister, flashing like a glitch in his meticulously ordered mind. 10 years old, her final birthday in that cramped apartment, begging for a single candle on a stale slice of bread. "Just one wish, Jules," she'd pleaded, her eyes bright despite the fever that would claim her weeks later. Poverty had stolen her, and Julian had built his fortress of wealth to ensure nothing ever stole from him again. But here was this girl, a mirror to that pain, about to walk out into the rain with nothing. He set down his cup, the clink echoing louder than it should. Rising with the fluid grace of a man accustomed to command, Julian approached the counter. The baker glanced up, his irritation shifting to deference at the sight of Julian's tailored suit and the aura of authority that clung to him like expensive cologne. "How much for the place?" Julian asked, his voice low and even, devoid of warmth. "For an hour. Shut it down. Clear the customers. I'll pay double whatever you make in a morning." The baker blinked, confusion etching lines on his forehead. "Sir? This is a bakery, not—" "Triple," Julian cut in, pulling out his wallet. Crisp bills fanned across the counter. "Far more than needed. Consider it a rental, and bring out every candle you have." The man hesitated only a moment before nodding vigorously, pocketing the cash. "Everyone out. Bakery's closed for a private event," he barked, ushering the few patrons toward the door with apologies and promises of free pastries later. The girl, Elara, as he'd soon learn, froze midway to the exit, turning with wide eyes. She looked at Julian as if he were a figment of some fever dream, her small frame tensing like a deer caught in headlights. "You," Julian said, pointing to her without a smile. "That wish of yours, how much is it worth?" She swallowed, glancing at the empty room now bathed in the soft glow of overhead lights. I don't have much, just these coins." She held them out, palm up, the metal dull and scarred. Julian waved them away. "Not to me, to you. What's the value of that birthday wish for your brother?" Her brow furrowed, confusion mingling with a spark of hope. "It's everything. Leo takes care of me. He works so hard, skips meals so I can eat. Today should be special for him." Julian nodded once, as if sealing a deal in a boardroom. "Then it's priceless. Sit down. This place is yours for the hour. Make your wish. Hell, make a dozen. Candles, cakes, whatever you need." Elara's eyes lit up, but caution lingered. "Why? You don't know us." He paused, the truth hovering like a shadow, Emma's ghost whispering in his ear. But he buried it deep, opting for the armor of detachment. "Call it an investment. Inefficiency. Wishes shouldn't be wasted on inefficiency." She tilted her head, not fully understanding, but the allure of the empty bakery won out. "Thank you, mister. I'm Elara. My brother's Leo. He'll be here soon." Julian retreated to his booth, watching as she tentatively approached the display case, her fingers tracing the glass like it held treasures. The baker, now compliant, began pulling out trays of pastries, stacking candles beside them. Elara's laughter bubbled up as she arranged a makeshift cake tower, her small hands precise and joyful. For the first time in years, Julian felt a crack in his facade. Not pity, but a compulsion to fix what he saw as a systemic flaw. Poverty had robbed Emma. He wouldn't let it rob this girl too. Minutes ticked by, the rain pattering against the windows like impatient fingers. Then the door swung open again, admitting a lanky teenager with wary eyes and a backpack slung over one shoulder. Leo scanned the room, his gaze landing on Elara with relief, then sharpening on Julian. "Elara? What the hell is going on here?" Leo demanded, striding forward protectively. She beamed, waving him over. "Leo, this mister rented the whole place. For your birthday. Come on, I get to make the wish now." Leo's jaw tightened, suspicion etching his young features. He shot Julian a glare that could cut glass. "Who are you? And what's the catch?" Julian met his stare evenly, leaning back in the booth. "No catch, just a transaction. She wanted a wish. I'm providing the means." Leo snorted, pulling Elara closer. "Nothing's free, man, especially from suits like you." Julian's lips curved into a faint, humorless smile. "You're right. Everything has a price. But today, consider it paid in full." As Leo reluctantly joined his sister at the counter, helping her light the first candle, Julian's mind raced. This wasn't charity. It was control, a way to rewrite a script from his past. But as Elara closed her eyes, whispering her wish with fervent belief, he wondered if he'd just invited chaos into his meticulously ordered world. Little did he know, this impulsive act was the first thread unraveling his empire of isolation, pulling him toward a family he never sought, and a redemption he desperately needed. Leo hovered protectively over Elara as she busied herself at the counter, her small hands darting like birds among the trays of pastries the baker had laid out. She selected a chocolate eclair with deliberate care, placing it at the center of her improvised cake tower, then added a sprinkle of colorful nonpareils from a jar behind the display. "This one's for you, Leo, because you're sweet inside, even if you act tough," she said, giggling as she balanced a raspberry tart on top. Her movements were economical, born of habit in a life where nothing was wasted. Julian observed from his booth, not intervening, but cataloging every detail. The way she rationed the treats as if they might vanish, the flicker of joy in her eyes that masked a deeper wariness. It was data, raw inputs revealing systemic failures. No child should strategize abundance like scarcity. The baker, now transformed into an unwilling caterer, hovered awkwardly nearby, occasionally glancing at Julian for approval. More candles over here, Elara directed him with surprising authority, her voice gaining confidence in this fleeting kingdom. She arranged a dozen wax sticks around the perimeter, their wicks pristine and untouched. Leo, still standing rigid, finally sank onto a stool beside her, his arms crossed but his gaze softening as she worked. You didn't have to do this, Squirt, he muttered, ruffling her hair. Birthdays are just days. But not today, Elara protested, lighting the first candle with a match from the baker. The flame danced, casting golden flickers across her face. Today you're the king. Make a wish. No, wait, I'll make it for you. She closed her eyes, lips moving in silent incantation, then blew out the flame with a puff that sent smoke curling upward. Julian's phone vibrated in his pocket. Another message from Marcus, no doubt pressing about the project timelines. He ignored it, leaning forward slightly. This wasn't sentiment, it was analysis. The girl's efficiency and joy, the brother's guarded gratitude, they highlighted inefficiencies he could optimize. Yet as Elara relit another candle and urged Leo to try, a phantom ache stirred. Emma had done the same once, turning a single match into a celebration in their dingy kitchen. Wish big, Jules, she'd said, her laughter echoing before the coughs took over. He clenched his jaw, pushing the memory down. This was different, controllable. Leo caught his eye again, the suspicion unbroken. All right, Suit, you've had your fun watching the show. What's your angle? People like you don't just throw money around for street kids. Elara paused mid-bite of a cookie, her eyes darting between them. Leo, he's nice. He made this happen. Julian rose slowly, approaching the counter with measured steps. He pulled out his phone, not to call off the charade but to tap a quick search. Discreet inquiries into public records, cross-referenced with the bakery's chatter he'd overheard earlier. Orphaned siblings, transient addresses, Leo's dropped education to scrape by, a glitch in the social framework, easily patched with resources. No angle, he replied coolly. Just observation. You two are surviving on scraps. Inefficient. I fix inefficiencies. Leo scoffed, standing to match Julian's height, though he was slimmer, hardened by streets rather than boardrooms. Fix? Like we're some broken app? We don't need your pity upgrade. Not pity, Julian countered, his tone flat as a balance sheet. A proposal, structured, beneficial. He glanced at Elara, who was now stacking macarons into a precarious pyramid, her focus a shield against the tension. In that moment, as she carefully placed a pink one at the top, humming a tuneless melody, the image overlapped with Emma again, her stacking crackers on a plate, pretending it was a feast. Julian's hand tightened on his phone. He nearly dialed his assistant to end it all, to retreat to his sterile office where emotions didn't complicate equations. Walk away, the rational voice urged, but the ghost whispered, fix it this time. Don't be powerless again. He set the phone down. Here's the deal. I provide a secure apartment in my building, penthouse level, fully furnished, groceries, utilities, enrollment for her in a top school, all covered. In return, he pointed at Leo, resume your education. No more street hustles. No entanglements that could drag her down. It's a contract. Breach it, and it terminates. Elara's eyes widened, the macaron tower forgotten. A real home? With beds and everything? Her voice held a wonder that pierced Julian's defenses, a raw hope mirroring Emma's when he'd promised her a better life he couldn't deliver back then. Leo shook his head, fists balled. And what do you get? Some tax write-off? Or do you just like playing God? Julian met his glare unflinchingly. I get order. A problem resolved. No more loose ends in a system that's already flawed. Internally, the truth gnawed. It was atonement by proxy, a way to silence the echoes of failure without admitting vulnerability. Elara tugged at Leo's sleeve. Please, Leo, think about it. No more cold nights. I could learn to read better like you always wanted. Her plea hung in the air, laced with the innocence of someone who'd known too little stability. Leo wavered, his protective instincts clashing with the grim reality of their existence. He glanced at the opulent spread before them, a temporary illusion, and sighed. Fine, for her. But if this is some scam... It's not, Julian interjected, already texting his assistant to prepare the paperwork. Legal, binding, you'll sign tomorrow. He turned away, signaling the end of negotiations, but paused at the door. One more thing, keep it clean. No disruptions. As the siblings shared a tentative hug over the treats, Elara's laughter filling the empty space once more, Julian stepped into the rain. The downpour soaked his coat, but he barely noticed. This wasn't altruism. It was engineering, a recalibration of fates. Yet as he hailed a cab back to his tower, the weight of Emma's memory felt lighter, if only by a fraction. Little did he know, this contract was the first clause in a story that would dismantle his carefully constructed isolation, forcing him to confront the human variables he'd long ignored. Leo watched him go, murmuring to Elara, "I don't trust him, but for now, happy birthday to me, I guess." She beamed up at him. "See? Wishes do come true." The penthouse doors slid open with a whisper of hydraulics, revealing an expanse of polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the glittering San Francisco skyline like a captive starfield. Elara's eyes widened as she stepped inside, her sneakers squeaking faintly against the pristine floor. "It's like a palace," she breathed, dropping her backpack and spinning in a slow circle. The space was vast, minimalist furniture in shades of chrome and white, a kitchen island larger than their old alley hideout, and bedrooms that echoed with emptiness. Julian's assistant had stocked it all, fresh clothes folded in drawers, a fridge humming with abundance, even a tablet preloaded with educational apps for her. But the air felt sterile, like a museum where touching was forbidden. Leo trailed behind, his expression a storm cloud. He dumped his bag by the door, kicking it lightly as if testing for traps. "This is temporary," he muttered to Elara, though his voice lacked conviction. "Don't get too comfy." She nodded absently, already darting to the window to press her nose against the glass, watching the city lights twinkle far below. Inside, a swirl of emotions tugged at her. Excitement at the softness of the couch, the endless hot water in the shower, but a nagging ache for the familiar grit of their old life. The streets had been hard, but they were theirs, huddled under blankets, sharing stories to drown out the sirens. Here everything was perfect, yet distant. She wondered if this shiny world would swallow them whole, or if she'd lose the brother who'd always been her anchor. Julian had vanished after the bakery, leaving instructions via text. "Settle in. Contract details tomorrow. No visits tonight." His absence was a relief to Leo, who paced the living room like a caged animal. "He's got us on a leash now," he grumbled, flipping through channels on the massive TV. Elara, sensing his unrest, slipped away to her new room, a space bigger than any she'd known, with a bed that swallowed her like a cloud. She pulled out her crumpled sketchpad from the backpack, the one salvaged from their last squat. With a stubby pencil, she drew a family of stick figures under a starry sky, but the stars were question marks, and the ground cracked like ice. It was her way of coping, anchoring the whirlwind of change in lines and shapes. "Maybe he'll like this one," she whispered, folding it carefully. Tomorrow she'd slip it under his door. Julian lived just floors above, in his own fortress. Morning brought the contract, a sleek folder delivered by the assistant, pages crisp with legalese. Julian arrived precisely at 9 a.m., suit impeccable, expression neutral. "Sign here," he said, pointing to the lines as Leo scanned the document warily. It outlined everything: rent-free living, monthly stipends, and school for Elara at a private academy starting next week. In exchange, academic progress reports, no legal troubles, quarterly reviews. "It's straightforward," Julian added. "Efficient." Leo signed with a flourish that bordered on defiance. "For her," he repeated like a mantra. Elara, peeking from the kitchen where she munched on fresh fruit, a novelty, smiled tentatively. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne." Julian nodded curtly, avoiding her gaze. "Julian is fine. And remember, this is an arrangement, not charity." He left as abruptly as he'd come, but not before Elara darted forward, pressing her drawing into his hand. "For you. It's us. In the stars." He took it without looking, tucking it into his pocket. Back in his office atop the tower, Julian unfolded the paper later that night. The stick figures held hands, a tall one labeled Julian, a medium Leo, and a small me. Stars rained down like confetti. He stared, the simplicity jarring against his world of spreadsheets. Emma had drawn like this once. Dreams on scraps. He refolded it, stashing it in a drawer with others he'd never admit to keeping. Phantoms, he told himself. Distractions. Days blurred into routine. Elara adapted with childlike resilience, exploring the penthouse's gadgets, voice-activated lights that obeyed her commands, a pantry that never emptied. But loneliness crept in during quiet hours. She'd wander the halls, sketching more. Notes tucked under Julian's door. "Thank you for the apples. They taste like summer." Or drawings of the view, with hidden figures waving from the clouds. Julian ignored them publicly, responding via assistant, if at all. Acknowledged. But privately he collected them, a growing stack in his safe. Why? He couldn't say. Data points, perhaps, or echoes. Leo struggled hardest. The luxury chafed like ill-fitting shoes. He enrolled in online classes as per the contract, but resentment simmered. "I used to handle things," he confided to Elara one evening as they sat on the balcony watching fog roll in. "Now I'm just kept." She hugged him, her small arms fierce. "But you're still my hero. And maybe Julian's not so bad. He fixed the wish, remember?" Their first real clash came midweek. Leo slipped out for a walk, returning with a flyer from the community center, a volunteer gig teaching kids basic coding, something he'd done sporadically before. Julian's assistant flagged it as a potential disruption. When Julian confronted him via video call, his preferred distance, Leo exploded. "You think volunteering is trouble? It's helping people, not your corporate takeovers." Julian's screen face remained impassive. "The contract specifies no external commitments that risk stability. Focus on studies." "You're turning us into robots," Leo shot back. Elara, overhearing, felt torn, grateful for the safety, but missing the raw freedom. She drew another picture that night, a golden cage with birds inside, one pecking at the lock. Marcus arrived unannounced that weekend, striding into Julian's office like he owned it, which he half did. Tall, impeccably groomed, with a smile sharp as a blade, he was the mirror Julian once admired. Ruthless efficiency personified. "Cousin, what's this I hear about your little philanthropy project? Street kids in the penthouse? That's not the Julian who built this empire." Julian leaned back, fingers steepled. "An experiment, minimal impact." Marcus laughed, cold and knowing. "Experiment? You're distracted. Project Urban Revival is weeks from close. Billions on the line. Those neighborhoods are ripe for redevelopment. Don't let some sob story derail it." He tossed a tablet onto the desk, charts glowing with projections. "Or is this midlife crisis hitting early?" Julian's jaw tightened, but he waved it off. "Handled. Now the timelines." As Marcus droned on, Julian's mind wandered to the flyer he'd glimpsed in Leo's hand. The community center slated for demolition in his project. A loose thread? Inefficient. But as the meeting ended, he pulled out Elara's latest drawing from his pocket, a family picnic under a sun that smiled. For the first time, he wondered if efficiency was worth the cost of warmth. Downstairs, Elara pressed her ear to the door, hoping for a knock that never came. The knock never came, but the night brought its own uninvited guest. Elara tossed in her expansive bed, the silk sheets twisting around her like vines as fever gripped her small frame. It started as a cough, dry and insistent, echoing through the penthouse's sterile silence. By midnight it had escalated, her breaths ragged, skin hot to the touch, whimpers piercing the dark. The smart system, programmed for efficiency, detected the anomaly. Elevated temperature, irregular vitals. Alerts pinged Julian's phone in his loft above, where he paced his office, reviewing fallout projections from a minor acquisition glitch. "Sir," the AI voice intoned through his earpiece. "Occupant Elara shows signs of acute illness. Medical dispatch initiated." Julian froze, the holographic charts flickering before him. Efficiency dictated waiting for the doctor. His network ensured the best arrived within minutes. But the whimpers, amplified through the security feed he reluctantly pulled up, tugged at buried wires. Emma's coughs had sounded like that, nights when he'd held her hand in their drafty room, powerless as the illness gnawed. "Cancel the delay," he muttered, already heading for the elevator. "I'm going down." The doors parted to a scene of controlled chaos. Leo knelt by Elara's bed, his face etched with panic, a damp cloth pressed to her forehead. "Come on, squirt. Breathe easy," he murmured, his voice cracking. Elara curled into herself, eyes glassy, clutching a stuffed bear she'd found in the closet, a token of normalcy in this alien luxury. "It hurts, Leo," she whispered, another cough racking her. "Like fire inside." Julian entered without knocking, the room's sensors bathing him in soft light. Leo shot up, defensive. "What are you doing here? The doctor's coming." "Move," Julian commanded, but his tone lacked its usual edge. He approached the bed, hesitating at the edge as if it were a precipice. Elara looked up, her fever-flushed cheeks making her seem even smaller. "Mr. Julian," she rasped, reaching out a trembling hand. I drew you something earlier, but now everything spins." He knelt awkwardly, his tailored pants creasing against the carpet. Touch wasn't in his repertoire. Handshakes in boardrooms perhaps, but not this. Gingerly, he took her hand, its heat startling against his cool palm. "The doctor's en route," he said, voice steady despite the internal surge. "Breathe slowly. In, out." She tried, but a cough interrupted, her grip tightening. In that clasp, memories flooded. Emma's final nights, her small fingers in his, begging for stories to distract from the pain. "Tell me a tale, Jules. About stars that fix themselves." Elara's eyes pleaded similarly. "Can you stay? Tell me a story. Leo's are about superheroes, but yours, you fix things. Tell one about that." Leo hovered nearby, arms crossed but silent, watching with a mix of resentment and reluctant curiosity. Julian cleared his throat, the request absurd in his world of data streams and deals. "A story," he echoed, buying time. His mind raced for something logical, unemotional. "All right, once in a vast network of stars, think of them as servers in the sky, there was a glitch. A little star kept flickering out, disrupting the whole constellation." Elara nestled deeper into the pillows, her breaths evening slightly as she focused. "What happened to it?" Julian continued, his voice halting at first, then finding a rhythm. "The big stars ignored it, too busy shining bright. But one day, a comet, fast, efficient, noticed the error. It wasn't supposed to care. Comets just streaked by. But this one paused, traced the faulty code. Turns out the little star wasn't broken. It was overloaded, carrying lights for others who dimmed." He adjusted the cloth on her forehead, movements tentative but gentle. The comet shared its trail, redistributing the load. And the little star? It shone steadier than ever, fixing the network one pulse at a time. She smiled faintly, eyelids drooping. "Like you. Fixing us." The words landed like a system crash, exposing vulnerabilities he'd firewalled. Emma had said something similar. "You're my fixer, Jules." Before, she couldn't say anything at all. Leo stepped closer, his guard cracking. That was lame, but she needed it. He met Julian's eyes, a flicker of understanding passing between them, the shared fear of loss, the helplessness against it. The doctor arrived then, a discreet professional whisked in by private escort. Examinations followed, flu complicated by exhaustion and prior malnutrition. "She'll recover with rest and meds," the doc assured, prescribing antibiotics and fluids. As he left, Julian lingered, watching Elara drift into medicated sleep. Her hand still loosely held his drawing from earlier, crumpled now, but clutched like a talisman. Leo sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. "Thanks for coming down. I thought you'd just send a bot or something." Julian straightened, reclaiming his composure. "The system alerted me. Protocol." But as he turned to leave, he spotted a flyer on the nightstand. Leo's from the community center. Bold letters, "Save our hub, volunteer drive." He picked it up, thumbing the edge. The address was smack in the redevelopment zone for Project Urban Revival. Thousands displaced, centers like this bulldozed for condos and labs. efficient progress. Yet seeing it here, in this room laced with Elara's fragile breaths, it felt like sabotage. Important to you? Julian asked, holding it up. Leo nodded warily. Yeah, place where kids like us get a shot. Coding classes, meals, community. They're fighting some big takeover. Julian's grip tightened. His takeover. Noted. He set it down, the weight of implication settling like code compiling errors. As he exited into the hallway, the door sealing behind him, the penthouse felt colder than ever. Upstairs, he poured a scotch, staring at the city lights. The drawings in his drawer called to him, Elara's innocent visions clashing with his empire's blueprint. For the first time, he questioned the cost of his fixes. Was warmth a variable worth optimizing? Or had he just invited a virus into his impenetrable system? Elara stirred in her sleep below, dreaming of stars that mended themselves, unaware of the storm brewing in the man who'd begun to care. Elara's dream of self-mending stars faded into the soft hum of morning light filtering through the penthouse blinds. She stirred under the covers, her fever broken but leaving her weak, a faint cough lingering like an unwelcome echo. Leo hovered in the kitchen, brewing herbal tea from the stocked pantry, his way of reclaiming some control in this borrowed life. "Feeling better, Squirt?" he asked, bringing the mug to her bedside with a forced smile. She nodded, sipping slowly, her sketchpad already open on her lap. "Yeah, Mr. Julian's story helped. The comet fixed everything." Her pencil danced across the page, rendering a cosmic scene where a bright streak mended a fractured constellation. But beneath the whimsy, her strokes carried worry. Lines jagged around the little star, mirroring her fear that their fragile stability might shatter if Leo's tensions boiled over. Upstairs, Julian nursed his scotch through the dawn hours, the city awakening below like a machine rebooting. The flyer from Elara's room haunted him. Save our hub. He cross-referenced it on his terminal, coordinates overlapping precisely with Phase 1 of Project Urban Revival. Demolition notices pending, community petitions ignored, efficient urban renewal or systemic erasure? The drawings in his drawer seemed to mock him now, their innocent optimism clashing with the cold calculus of progress. By the time Marcus barged into his office mid-morning, unannounced as always, Julian had buried the unease under layers of reports. "Cousin, you look like hell," Marcus declared, tossing his briefcase onto the desk with a thud that scattered hollow projections. He was a vision of polished aggression, custom suit hugging his athletic frame, hair slicked back, eyes sharp as profit margins. "Late night crunching numbers, or is your little side project keeping you up? Heard the kid was sick. Playing nursemaid now?" Julian didn't rise to the bait, gesturing to the chair opposite. "The project's on track. Phase 1 approvals came through last night." Marcus sat, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "On track? You're distracted, Jules. That bakery stunt, the penthouse squatters, it's bleeding into business. Investors are whispering, Thorne's gone soft, and soft doesn't close billion-dollar deals." He pulled up a shared screen, charts blooming in the air, revenue forecasts for urban revival soaring, but with red flags on community backlash. "This isn't just redevelopment, it's our legacy. Turn slums into silicon gold. But if you're playing house with strays, how do we sell ruthlessness?" Julian's fingers drummed the desk, a rare tell. "They're not strays, it's an arrangement. Controlled." "Controlled?" Marcus leaned forward, voice dropping to that prophetic timbre he used in negotiations. "You stormed down there last night like a white knight. Assistant logs don't lie. And that center, the one the boy's mooning over? It's ground zero for demo. Thousands out of work, sure. But progress demands sacrifice. Remember why we built this. No weaknesses, no sentimental glitches." He paused, studying Julian's face. "Or is this about Emma? Digging up ghosts won't fix the past." The name hit like a server crash, but Julian masked it. "Emma's irrelevant. This is optimization. The kids were a flaw. I'm patching it." Marcus stood, pacing to the window. "Patch it by shipping them off. Boarding school for the girl, trade program for the boy. Clean, efficient, or better, cut ties. Your arrangement is a liability. What if the brother gets in trouble? Lawsuits, scandals. Urban revival crumbles if you're seen as the bleeding heart who saves puppies but bulldozes homes. Down below, Elara finished her drawing, folding it with care. For Mr. Julian, she told Leo, who eyed it skeptically, to say thanks for the story. Leo ruffled her hair, but his mind was elsewhere. The flyer tucked in his pocket, a reminder of the center's volunteer drive. He'd snuck out earlier, signing up for a shift teaching basic tech to neighborhood kids. It felt like rebellion, a sliver of purpose beyond Julian's gilded cage. Just be careful with him, okay? Suits like that always have an agenda. Elara nodded, but her heart tugged differently. The penthouse was a dream, yet hollow without connection. She missed the raw bonds of the streets, Leo's stories under bridges, shared scraps that tasted like family. Slipping the drawing under Julian's door later that day, she whispered through the crack, "Hope you like it. The comet's you, fixing stars." No answer came, but inside, Julian retrieved it, adding to his collection. This one depicted the comet trailing light over a city, mending cracks in the skyline. Too close to home. Marcus's words echoed through Julian's afternoon meetings, a persistent bug in his code. He reviewed the project specs. Evictions starting soon. Centers like Leo's raised for innovation hubs. Logic screamed approval. Urban decay transformed into value. But as evening fell, he found himself at the window, gazing down at the penthouse lights. Elara's latest query via text from the assistant. "Can we visit the center? Leo says it's fun. Harmless, yet it pricked." What faces hid behind those demolition lines? People like Emma, erased by systems he now wielded. That night, Leo returned from his covert volunteer shift, buzzing with quiet triumph. "Taught a kid to code a simple game today," he confided to Elara as she doodled in bed. "Felt good. Real." She beamed, but worry creased her brow. What if Mr. Julian finds out? The contract... He won't, Leo assured, though doubt gnawed. Upstairs, Julian overheard via the security feed, not spying, but monitoring for stability. The center again. A variable is unchecked. Marcus's prophecy rang true. Distraction breeds weakness. Yet as he stared at Elara's drawing, the comet's trail seemed to point accusingly at him. Was he the fixer or the fracture? The scales tipped subtly, logic versus the emerging pull of something warmer, more chaotic. Urban revival loomed, a juggernaut of his design, but for the first time, Julian glimpsed the human cost not as collateral, but as consequence. The ghost of Emma whispered, "Choose wisely this time." Leo tucked Elara in, unaware of the eavesdropper above. Sweet dreams squirt. Leo's caution hung in the air, like fog over the bay, but Elara tucked it away with her sketches, her trust in Julian budding like a fragile shoot in concrete. She drifted to sleep that night with visions of the community center, a place Leo described as a haven of noise and purpose, where kids like her could tinker with old computers and dream beyond the streets. "We'll go soon," he'd promised, but the contract's invisible chains chafed him more each day. By morning, the flyer was gone from his pocket, replaced by a resolve sharpened by Marcus's unseen warnings, echoing in Julian's mind upstairs. Julian stared at the void where the drawing had been. Elara's latest, a comet now taped to his monitor as a reluctant reminder. The office buzzed with post-cancellation ripples from a smaller deal, but his focus fractured. Marcus's prophecies gnawed, soft equaled failure. He dove into simulations for urban revival, tweaking variables to minimize collateral, a sterile term for lives upended. But the center's pin on the map pulsed like a warning light. Leo's involvement there? A wild card. He texted his assistant. "Monitor penthouse activity. Discreet." Down below, Leo slipped out before Elara woke, his backpack light but his steps heavy with defiance. The center was a short bus ride away, a weathered building in the mission's heart, graffiti-splashed walls hiding rooms alive with chatter. He signed in for his shift, the coordinator clapping him on the back. "Good to have you back, kid. These young ones need mentors like you." Leo nodded, diving into a session with a group of tweens, guiding them through basic loops in a donated laptop. For hours, he lost himself in the code, the pure logic of it, untainted by contracts or suits. See? Input, process, output. Life's like that. Control what you can, he told a wide-eyed boy, the words a balm for his own turmoil. But as the session wrapped, an overheard conversation in the hallway sliced through his peace. Heard some big tech firms eyeing this block. Revival project or something. They'll turn it into fancy offices. Leo froze, the flyer he'd pocketed earlier crumpling in his fist. Julian's company, Thorne Enterprises, plastered on the petition against it. The pieces clicked. The arrangement, a smokescreen. Rage boiled, betrayed, manipulated. He stormed out, the bus ride home a blur of clenched fists. Julian wasn't fixing, he was dismantling. Leo's pride, already bruised, ignited. "I'll handle this myself," he muttered, pulling out his old phone to text a contact from the streets. A shady group promising quick cash for deliveries. Risky, but independent. No more leashes. Elara noticed his absence when she padded into the kitchen, pouring cereal with a yawn. The penthouse felt emptier without him, the vast space amplifying her solitude. She sketched idly at the island, a family at the center, but shadows creeping from the edges. "Where's Leo?" she wondered aloud to the AI assistant, who responded blandly. "Location not tracked per privacy settings?" Worry gnawed. Leo had been her constant, her shield. Without him, the luxury felt like a pretty prison. She texted Julian impulsively. "Can we talk? About the center?" But no reply came. His schedule was a fortress. Julian's day unraveled in meetings, Marcus's voice a constant drone via conference call. "Push the evictions. Soft spots will sink us." But the assistant's alert pinged. Leo at the center. Again. Julian rubbed his temples, the prophecy fulfilling itself. Distraction breeds chaos. He almost messaged Leo directly, warn him off, but hesitated. Control via distance. That was the arrangement. Leo returned late, slipping in quietly. Elara was waiting, curled on the couch with her pad. "You okay? You look mad." He forced a grin. "Just tired. Center was great. Taught some kids today." But inside, betrayal festered. That night, he met the contact in a dim alley, old acquaintances from rougher days. "Easy gig," the leader said, handing over a package. "Deliver this. Cash tomorrow. No questions." Leo pocketed it, the weight and anchor of autonomy. For us, he told himself, to get out from under him. Morning brought escalation. Julian, reviewing security logs, spotted Leo's late return. Disheveled, evasive. The unease spiked. He summoned Leo via text. Meeting? Now. But before it could happen, Elara's condition lingered. A mild relapse, her cough returning. She stayed in bed, sketching feverishly to distract from the ache. "Leo's acting weird," she confided to her drawing, lines blurring with worry. The fear of losing him, of this fragile setup crumbling, gripped her. He'd been her world. What if anger drove him away? The confrontation brewed. Leo arrived at Julian's office, defiance in his stance. "What? Checking compliance?" Julian swiveled his chair, the drawing on his monitor glaring. "The center, it's off limits. Risk the arrangement." Leo's eyes narrowed. "Off limits? Like how your project plans to bulldoze it? I heard the calls. You're the one destroying homes." Julian stiffened. "Business. Progress." "Progress?" Leo exploded. "You fix us while wrecking everything we know? Hypocrite!" He stormed out, the door slamming like a verdict. The betrayal crystallized for Leo. No more waiting. He amped his gig. More deliveries. Riskier routes. Cash flowed, hidden in his room. Independence beckoned. Elara sensed the shift, her sketches darkening, families fracturing. That afternoon alone, she activated the security panel Julian had shown her for emergencies. Fingers trembling, she called him as Leo vanished again. "Mr. Julian, Leo's in trouble. People came looking. Strange guys. He's not home and I'm scared." Her voice cracked, the fear raw. Losing Leo meant losing everything. "Please, he's all I have. If he's gone, what's left?" Julian's world halted mid-call with Marcus. The screen froze on profit charts, but Elara's plea echoed louder. "Where?" he demanded, already rising. She sobbed. "I don't know. But he said something about fixing it himself, like your comet story, but wrong." Marcus's voice crackled. "Jules? The deal. Sign now. Collateral's just numbers." But the ghost of Emma roared, "Not this time." Julian slammed the laptop shut. Meeting adjourned. He bolted from the room, the prophecy unfolding from distraction to disaster. This wasn't a glitch. It was a cascade failure. And for the first time, the stakes felt personal. Leo, meanwhile, delved deeper into the shadows, package in hand, unaware of the unraveling threads. Leo's silhouette melted into the alley's gloom, the package a leaden secret against his chest as he navigated the labyrinth of backstreets. Neon flickered overhead, casting erratic shadows that mirrored his churning thoughts. Independence at last, a stack of bills to spirit Elara away from Julian's grasp. But doubt whispered with each step. The risks, the faces from his past leering like ghosts. One more drop, he told himself, slipping through a chain-link fence toward the dimly lit warehouse. The leader nodded approval, handing over another envelope. "You're in deep now, kid. No backing out." Leo pocketed it, the cash burning like a promise or a curse. Back in the tower, Julian's strides ate up the corridor, his phone clutched like a lifeline as Elara's sobs echoed in his ears. "Stay put," he told her, voice steady despite the storm inside. "Lock the doors. I'm coming." The elevator plummeted, but his mind raced ahead. Leo's coordinates from the security trace, a blinking dot veering into the city's underbelly. Marcus's final words rang mocking. "Collateral's just numbers." Not anymore. This was flesh and fear, an echo of Emma's last plea. "Don't leave me alone, Jules." He burst into the penthouse, finding Elara huddled on the couch, tear-streaked but clutching her sketch pad like armor. "He's gone again," she whispered, handing him a drawing, fractured stars, a comet veering off course. "Said he was fixing things. But those men, they looked mean." Her lip quivered, the fear raw. Without Leo, she was adrift, the penthouse a vast ocean swallowing her small world. Julian knelt, uncharacteristic urgency softening his edges. "I'll find him. Promise." The word slipped out, binding like his contracts, but laced with something new. Accountability. He pulled up his network on the tablet, fingers flying, satellite pings, contact traces, even a discreet call to a private investigator on retainer. "Targets in the industrial district, warehouse 47, associates flagged for low-level trafficking." The PI's voice crackled. "Dangerous crew, you sure?" "Extract him. Clean. No traces." Julian hung up, already shrugging on a coat. Elara grabbed his sleeve. "Take me? Please, he's my brother." "Too risky," he replied, but her eyes, mirrors of Emma's desperation, cracked his resolve. "Fine, but stay close." They descended to the garage, Julian's sleek black SUV humming to life. As they sped through rain-slick streets, he glanced at her in the rear view. "Why the center? What's it mean to him?" Elara fiddled with her drawing. "It's where he feels strong. Teaches kids like us. Says it's family when we had none." Her voice hitched. "If you take it away, he'll break." The words landed like code errors compiling. Urban revival, his brainchild now a wrecking ball aimed at their fragile bonds. Marcus had prophesied this. Sentiment sinking empires. But as warehouses loomed, Julian's phone buzzed. Board alerts. "Revival deal in jeopardy. Investors pulling. Explain." He silenced it. Numbers could wait. This glitch demanded immediate reboot. They parked in shadows, Julian signaling Elara to wait as he approached the fence. Inside, voices rose. Leo's among them, edged with defiance. "This is the last one. Pay up and I'm out." Laughter barked. "Out? You're hooked now, kid. One more job, bigger payout." Julian scaled the fence with surprising agility, years of suppressed athleticism surfacing. He crept closer, peering through grimy windows. Leo cornered, package exchanged, but tension thickened as the goons closed in. "Boss says you know too much. Can't let you walk." Adrenaline surged, Emma's helplessness flashing, the powerlessness he'd vowed to eradicate. Julian burst through a side door, no plan but instinct. Stop! He's with me! Heads turned, guns glinting. Leo's eyes widened. You? Get out! This ain't your world, the leader sneered. Thorne, the tech king slumming it? Is this your charity case? Julian's mind whirred. Leverage. I own half this district. One call, and your operation's digital dust. Accounts frozen, locations leaked. Bluff layered with truth. His network could deliver. Let him go, or lose everything. Tension crackled, but the leader wavered, nodding to release Leo. Fine, but stay out of our turf. They backed off, vanishing into the night. Leo stumbled forward, fury and relief warring. What the hell? You followed me? Saved you, Julian corrected, guiding him to the car where Elara waited, flinging herself at her brother. Leo, I was so scared. He hugged her tight, but glared at Julian. Why? Contract's void now, right? I broke it. Julian started the engine, rain drumming the roof like accusations. Because it's not just an arrangement anymore. The admission hung heavy. As they drove, he confessed fragments. Emma's death, the poverty that stole her, his empire built his armor. I thought control fixed everything, but you two, you're not variables, you're people. Leo softened slightly, the adrenaline crash revealing exhaustion. The center, your project would have killed it. Would have, Julian echoed. Not anymore. Back at the tower as Elara dozed in Leo's arms, Julian faced the fallout. Emails flooding, investors fleeing, stocks tumbling, lawsuits looming from breach partners. Marcus's voicemail spat venom. You've torpedoed us. For what? Street rats? The price crystallized. Millions evaporated, reputation in tatters, alliances shattered. But watching Leo tuck Elara in, whispering assurances, Julian felt a shift. Not loss, but liberation. The ghost of Emma smiled faintly. He'd chosen guardianship over godhood, yet the wreckage demanded reckoning. As dawn broke, Julian dialed his lawyer. Sell shares, whatever it takes. The empire crumbled, but from its ashes, something human emerged. The lawyer's office hummed with the finality of signatures, the pen scratching across documents that severed Julian from the empire he'd forged. 6 months had etched lines into his face, not from age, but from the relentless barrage of consequences. The lawsuits dragged on like chains, former partners suing for breach, claiming millions in lost profits from the aborted urban revival. Headlines scream betrayal, tech titans meltdown, Thorne trades billions for sentiment, while stocks he'd dumped flooded the market, erasing fortunes overnight. Old allies vanished, their calls unreturned, whispers of unstable trailing him like digital exhaust. Marcus, now sole helm of the fractured company, had sent one terse message. You chose chaos. Live with it. The isolation stung, a self-inflicted wound. But Julian bore in silence, his tower now a quieter refuge where echoes of laughter began to fill the voids. He'd liquidated assets judiciously, enough to settle debts, fund necessities, but the opulent loft was gone, traded for a modest home in a leafy suburb, warm wood floors and a backyard where Elara could run without glass walls caging the sky. The transition hit hardest in those early weeks. Boardroom echoes replaced by school runs, profit calls by bedtime stories. Yet as autumn leaves turned, so did he. Emma's legacy launched quietly, a nonprofit harnessing his tech savvy for at-risk youth. Apps for free tutoring, VR simulations for job training, grants saving centers like Leo's from the wrecking ball. He'd poured the remnants of his wealth into it, buying back the mission hub anonymously, upgrading it with labs where kids coded dreams into reality. Donors trickled in, inspired by the fallen mogul's redemption, but Julian shunned the spotlight. This wasn't PR. It was penance, a bridge from Emma's loss to futures secured. Leo adapted with the grit of someone who'd stared down worse. School resumed in earnest. Community college courses in programming, his volunteer shifts at the center, now a paid gig leading workshops. The shadows of that warehouse night faded, replaced by tentative trust. "You didn't have to blow it all for us," he'd said one evening over dinner, the three of them around a wooden table laden with homemade pasta, Elara's attempt at fancy food. Julian had met his gaze. "I didn't. I did it for me. To stop being the villain in someone else's story." Leo nodded, a rare smile cracking. "Fair, but thanks, Dad." The words slipped out, awkward but earnest, hanging in the air like a new code compiling. Julian froze, then cleared his throat. "Guardian works too. For now." Elara blossomed in the sunlight of stability, her sketches evolving from fractured stars to vibrant families under sunny skies. School suited her, top marks in art and math, friends who didn't know her past as the street kid. But memories lingered. She'd wake some nights, clutching her pad, drawing bridges between old and new. "I miss the old us sometimes," she confessed to Julian during a backyard swing session, her legs pumping higher with each push he gave. "But this feels like home, with you and Leo." He caught the swing, steadying her. "Home's what we build, and we're building strong." Her laughter pealed, a sound that thawed his remaining ice. Marcus's shadow loomed sporadically, a strained lunch where accusations flew. "You've gutted the company. Lawsuits are bleeding us dry." Julian sipped his coffee calmly. "Redirect the funds. Pivot to ethical tech. Partner with my fund." Marcus scoffed but didn't refuse outright, a crack in his armor. Their rift mended slowly, business ties frayed but familial threads enduring. The true test came in quiet moments. Elara's first school play, Leo's code project winning a local hackathon. Julian attended both, camera in hand, capturing smiles that filled voids wealth never could. The fund grew. First grant saving a teen shelter, second equipping a rural library with devices. "Emma would have loved this," he murmured to her photo one night, tucked in his wallet like a talisman. 6 months culminated on a crisp afternoon, the trio piling into Julian's modest SUV, far from the luxury fleet of old. "Where to?" Leo asked from shotgun, Elara bouncing in the back. "Sweet corner," Julian replied, a ghost of a smile playing. "Tradition." The bakery bell tinkled familiarly, the same flour-dusted baker grinning in recognition. "The trio returns. What'll it be? Claire's for the artist?" Elara laughed, pointing to a strawberry shortcake. "For my birthday. But make it big. We're celebrating everything." The baker obliged, stacking layers with flair as they claimed their old booth. No contracts this time. No cold transactions. Just easy chatter. Leo's latest app idea, Elara's school tales, Julian sharing a rare Emma anecdote about a homemade cake that collapsed into laughter. Elara lit the candles herself, the flames dancing in her eyes. "Wish time," she declared, closing them tight. A breath, and they flickered out. "What did you ask for?" Leo teased. She grinned mischievously. "For us to stay like this, family, and for Emma's legacy to help more kids, like we were helped." Julian's throat tightened, the simplicity profound. He'd lost an empire but gained a legacy, not of steel and silicon, but flesh and forgiveness. As they dug in, frosting smudged and laughter-free, the rain outside pattered a gentle rhythm. Marcus texted mid-bite. "Heard about the fun. Intriguing. Coffee soon?" Julian replied, "Anytime." Bridges rebuilding. The bakery faded behind as they drove home. Elara's drawing from the day, a comet guiding a family through stars, taped to the dash. Julian glanced at it, the path ahead clearer than any projection. He'd traded thrones for this. Guardianship, growth, a heart no longer iced over. Emma's ghost rested peacefully at last, her legacy alive in the lives he'd chosen to mend. And there you have it, the extraordinary journey of Julian Thorne, from a cold empire builder to a guardian whose heart was thawed by two resilient siblings. In the end, true wealth isn't in boardrooms or billions. It's in the bonds we forge, the sacrifices we make, and the legacies of kindness we leave behind. What started with a simple candle wish blossomed into an unbreakable family, proving that one act of compassion can rewrite destinies. Thank you all for listening and joining this heartfelt tale. If it touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more inspiring stories. Share in the comments. What moved you most? Let's spread the warmth. See you next time.